Hello, everybody. Welcome back to On Track GP. We're here today, obviously, as there's been two very big car launches here today. Of course, we had the launch of the new Williams FW46 and the first ever car from the Stake F1 team, which we were just talking off camera. We're not sure how to say, but we'll get into it. Here again today with Jamie. How are you doing, Jamie?
Very well, Colin. How are you, mate?
Good stuff. I'm not too bad. Not too bad. Enjoying today's news, let's say.
Plenty of news to talk about. That's for.
Yep, 100%. Sorry, I cut you off there. But before we get into the launches, let's just touch on a little bit of the other news that came out earlier today. Of course, one of the big ones was that the new format for the sprint race has been agreed by the FIA. What do you think about it?
Is it a new format would be the first thing to say. I mean, I would argue it's a new schedule, not a new format. If anything, it raises questions about putting the sprint against quali, which I'm not a fan of. Those are two things that are not compatible. If we were talking about a reverse grid or grid by points or grid by last race, something marketable, either Formula E style, that sort of thing, I would be way more enamored with this as a format change. But as it happens, this is we are moving days around, which, I mean, what's your perspective on it? Because I'm underwhelmed.
Well, firstly, just in case you haven't heard the news already, obviously the announcement was that on Friday now you're going to have your practice and your sprint qualifying. Saturday is going to be a sprint race and then normal qualifying, and then Sunday you're going to have your race. And to be honest, I agree with you. I don't see how it makes any difference. If anything, now I don't know what way the park format rules are going to work. Obviously, they're going to change, but I don't understand how you can hold a race before a qualifying session. If a driver gets in a bit of a bump or something, or a chassis is destroyed or something, that puts that driver out for the rest of the weekend. They're instantly on the back foot going into the race because they can't qualify. So yeah, it's swapping two sessions around. I don't think it's going to make a difference. I agree with you. I don't really see the point in sprint races apart from the fact that it's a little bit more.
I'm genuinely disappointed because for me, there is an opportunity with sprint races and with sprint quality to do something very interesting. There is the opportunity to get the back markers to the front of the grid. There is an opportunity for the mid-level teams to grab points that the FIA F1 could do something very interesting with this. Even down to the point where 6th, 5th, 4th are the highly competitive areas when it comes to the Constructors' Championship. 7th is like a middle ground. And when we start talking about Williams, Alpine, and Aston Martin, even Williams, even Sauber, when we're talking about that, because I'm not calling them steak, I refuse. But with that in mind, 1-2 points is a big swing. It's a big difference. And what they've actually done is they've gone, okay, well, tell you what, Red Bull and Ferrari and Mercedes can keep competing, and all we're going to do is make it that everyone's going to be very sensible come holiday. That's all that's going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen countless times before how those little points can make the difference between 7th and 8th or 5th and 6th in the championship. So we'll just have to see. Other news to come out with that as well, of course, was that the FIA has announced that activation for DRS now will be 1 lap after the start of the race, not 2 as is usual. And there's been an increase in power units, the amount of power units can be used in the season up to 4. So
that's good and bad news, I think. As I've said on watch-alongs and podcasts and all the rest of it, I'm not a DRS fan. I think it takes away from the racing somewhat. It's essentially a go faster button. For me, we would do better to dispense with DRS as a system, maybe going back to a KERS system where you can essentially generate some more downforce going in. So your kinetic recovery is better so that you've got more downforce going into a corner, which would make overtaking more interesting. But just straight line drag reduction, it's just like I say, it's just a go faster button. And I'm make no excuses of being an F1 purist when it comes to that sort of stuff. And it's great for people who just want to see loads of very easy overtakes, that it's going to come 1 lap sooner. But for me, and I might be in the minority here, I think it takes away from Formula One quite considerably.
Yeah. Well, let's move on. Of course, all that has to be approved by the World Motorsport Council, which is coming February 28th, day before we start racing in Bahrain, or start the weekend. It wouldn't be the FIA if it didn't want tight deadlines, but we'll move away from that, and we'll move very swiftly over to Mr. Christian Horner, because it sounds like he's got himself in a bit of bother.
Well, I am of the opinion that until any evidence is put into the world, then it's all just rumours and accusations. Equally, no smoke without fire. I would be cautious to cast any aspersions this early. There's always two sides, so I won't be pitching my tent on either side of this. Like, as much as I'm a Red Bull fan, I'm not an apologist for anyone. So I think it'll be a very interesting couple of weeks. Red Bull have said that they're not going to do anything. So to me, by do anything, I mean they're not going to remove him from their position or do anything against Christian Horner at the moment. So that to me says they are backing Christian considerably. It's kind of a weird parallel, but when you look at like allegations that go against even like newsreaders and stuff like that, they get pulled from their job straight away. And Christian Horner hasn't been pulled from anything. So it might just be that there is an allegation that has to be seen through. I think it's good that there is an external investigation taking place. That's positive, because that says to me complete transparency. Just don't look at our lunch tab. And like from that side of things, I think Red Bull are complying, because I think there's potentially it's just an allegation without merit potentially, but don't quote me on that. I haven't seen the evidence, but until someone is accused with evidence, it is still two sides to every story.
Yeah, of course. Well, there is an ongoing investigation at Red Bull due to a claim of inappropriate behaviour by Christian Horner, but like you said, of course, innocent until proven guilty, and we'll just have to wait and see what the outcome is on that.
Well, on top of that, it's a broad spectrum when they say inappropriate conduct or inappropriate behaviour. So it could be down to he pushed the personal trainer. Like he could have thrown a wrench across a garage. It could be any number of things. So just because it's an accusation, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a dark path for that accusation. It might just be that he needs to be reprimanded for bad behaviour.
Of course, 100%. Well, let's move on to the reason why we're here, won't we? The car launches today. Obviously, we had earlier today Williams, New York City. They launched a new FW46, and of course a new look for the drivers as well, white overalls. What was your thoughts first of all when you seen the new car and the new livery?
Immediately, well, this is better than Haas's launch, but I was quietly hopeful of like a real retro look for this Williams car. So there was a bit of me that went, oh, there's no white on this car, there's no gold on this car apart from the Duracell battery. But I thoroughly enjoyed the launch. I thought James Vowles was incredibly well spoken. Alex Albon was, again, he keeps giving merit and credence to himself, because he talked about, he's very humble in the way he spoke, but he talked about the future and how he was moving forwards. One key thing that stuck out for me was, this is not Williams going, we're done, this is the end product. This was Williams saying, okay, we're working towards something. It was very humble, very transitional, I would say, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I could listen to James Vowles talk all day, because there is a way he puts technical specifications of Formula One into such an eloquent way. His phrase, the low-hanging fruit of technical development, like I was like, yeah, straight in, and you've already sort of smashed through, right, Williams are missing this and this, and immediately has gone, right, here's the improvements. But it's a good job, not an excellent job, which I thought was fantastic. So Williams pursuing excellence and looking towards at least the top 5 is a great move forwards for a legendary status team, you know, with a lot of pedigree. So from my perspective, I was really happy with the launch. On an aesthetic level, blue on blue is a bit boring, but it's better than having carbon fiber and black. So immediately it looks better than the Haas car. I like that they were very explicit about the fact that Williams needed money, and they didn't try and sugarcoat that. They went, right, We needed sponsors. Look, Kraken, massive thing across the back. Then it was, we need two more big sponsors. So Komatsu goes here, and then My Protein goes here. And in fact, we don't have enough side pod for both of them, so we had to split the side pod. And that to me said, okay, right, at least you're being explicit about the fact that Williams needed money to be competitive, which I kind of liked. It was a refreshing look at things from a Formula One perspective, from a sponsorship perspective. And again, the front of a lot of the Formula One cars this season is just going to look like these are all our sponsors just down the nose cone. But I don't mind it. I quite enjoyed it. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. You were saying about what James Wells was saying there about, talking about moving the team forward. The one thing that stuck with me was he said something along the lines of, I can't remember the exact quote, but something like, I don't want to sound blunt, but 7th is not good enough. And exactly. I kind of thought this sounds really, really good. I think it could be a good season for them. I really think it could. I think Albon's driving the best he ever has. There's no denying the change James Wells has brought into that team since last year. And of course, the second season, you'd have to wish that Logan Sargeant would be a lot better up there too. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I thought it was an interesting comment from Logan Sargeant. He's going to have to change the way he drives, which I thought was it was quite enlightening. So it says to me, much in line with most of the other teams on the grid, this car is focused on Alex Albon, and Logan's going to have to find a way to make that work. He's going to have to adapt his driving style, and he was very candid about it. He was very to the point, and I think that shows maturity. Rookie season's done. Now it's gloves off. You got to get it done. So I'm quietly hopeful of a mid-table competitive season for Williams. Any more than that is obviously a bit of a pipe dream, but for a prestige team like Williams to be pushing for challenging Alpine would be great. If they were to challenge Aston Martin, even better.
Good prediction, yeah. So constant point scorers, you're hoping? That
would be great. I think picking off 10, 9 and 8th place, but Albon's capable of 6th and 5th, definitely. They're not going to be world beaters, but they're going to be continuing their upward trajectory that they've had since, essentially 2 years ago now. So I think it's looking positive for Williams. And also, not a bad looking car. A lack of carbon fiber and a lack of black is no bad thing when it comes to like actual colors on a car, because I feel like color on black is going to be very much the thing for the season when it comes to car liveries.
Yeah. But as you're mentioning black, of course, let's move on to the other major one of today. Stake F1 Kick Sauber, whatever they're called. They launched their brand new, a really bold, striking black and green livery today, and the new car for the C44 this year. Initial thoughts?
I thought it was a lot of show and not much substance. A lot of talk went in before that final unveiling. I kind of like that they are talking up a good game. And that's, you got Valtteri Bottas, of course you're going to talk up a good game. The colors are great. The execution's weird. It does look very aggressive. Like, I was looking at the side pods and the front wing, and obviously we can't tell a lot until Bahrain, and then even then it might not be the final sort of end product for this car. But Stake have gone aggressive, they've gone big, and that's the last time I'm going to call them Stake. Sauber are looking positive. In saying that, it does feel like they have gone, here's a green paint can. Let's just make this car look like something different very quickly. And I will be very surprised if they are competitive. All show and no go at the moment from Sauber until Bahrain, and we see what Valtteri and Zhou can do. But I did notice that they do seem to have changed aerodynamic design. So there does seem to be something. Obviously, we'll have to wait until the release of tech spec, but the side pods look more aggressive. It looks like they're leaning more into the ground effect and forcing that in and around the back. The rear wing looked aggressive as well. I liked that. I didn't. In terms of the color scheme, I'm there for the neon. I kind of enjoy it. It's not neon pink, but I'll take neon green. But yeah, I think they may flatter to deceive a little bit. I think they've gone big with a show, and there may not be much behind this because, again, this team are in a holding pattern for another year and a half. They already know their end product is not going to be Sauber or Stake or Kick or any of that. The end game is something that is very different, and also will be chrome, red, and black. But with that in mind, like, what did you think of the Sauber car?
Well, I have to say, when the launch started and they were showing the car, I thought it was on a set of Star Wars or something, or there's all the whirring and the futuristic stuff. But yeah, definitely really different. It's difficult to know, like you said, with Stake. Obviously, it was a difficult season for them last year. The final year is Alfa Romeo. There's no denying that. So obviously, an improvement is on the cards. But just how much of an improvement are you looking for? Is it a stake? There we go. The stake. Is it a sake of staying where you are and just trying to get points? Kind of moving up the order gradually, like Williams, or is it a case of going all out and trying to do as best they can? Because, like you said, Audi's coming in 2 years' time. They probably want to do better, to have a better foundation for Audi to come in on, I'd imagine.
I think neither of those drivers are going to be with Audi. That seems pretty certain. As much as Valtteri is sort of like playing that down somewhat, that he'll still be there, I don't see that being the lineup when they change rules and regs and bring in Audi anyway. I think it'll be Hulk and Sainz potentially. But with that in mind, I think both of them, and this goes for a few teams on the grid this year, the gloves are off. They can do what they want in terms of pushing for points. It's going to happen at Mercedes and Ferrari, and I think with Stake, it's another example of the fact that they can actually go all out to prove a point, because this holding pattern means nothing is expected of Sauber, because they're going to change. Audi's going to come in and completely overhaul everything. But that was something that I did know that was very different. Williams had a very human launch. What I mean is not just that the people were there, but both drivers were there. James Vowles was there. They did a tour of the factory. They talked about the history. Whereas Sauber, it was like, this is pretty, this is new, this is this. And it's like, yeah, but you have history. You have been in the sport a very long time. You can talk about your pedigree as well. And I think that's where Sauber falls short, is there isn't that human love, adoration for the team. It's more, how do we make this new? How do we make this shiny and bring more people into it? Kind of a bit of the Alpine Renault model with that.
Yeah, you're 100% correct there, because even if you look through the history of Sauber, there were BMW, there were Alfa Romeo, they're
Exactly.
Stake, they're going to be Audi, but at the end of the day, there still always have been Sauber. They've always been in the one factory in Hinwil in Switzerland since they started back in 1993. So, like you said, a lot of history there that remains untouched for whatever reason. But yeah, an interesting 2 car launches today, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we started off slow. Haas was all kinds of disappointing, but I think we're slowly building towards some really interesting releases and holding out hope of some very different liveries that aren't just all carbon fiber black cars with a little bit of color on them. And here's hoping for a pink Alpine as well.
Yeah, but that was going to be my next question. Obviously, the next launch is Alpine on the 7th and Visa Cash or B, whatever they're called, Cash App on the 8th. Is there anything you're expecting from these next 2 launches coming up?
I would love a pink and sky blue Alpine. That would be great. And then also, I do want to see how much they're going to look like Red Bull. Not as a Red Bull fan, just from a tech, aerodynamic, ground effect way of looking at things, how similar these designs are going to be, from nose cone to rear wing and everything in between. Like, how similar are these cars going to be? And then as far as Visa, Cash App, RB, Vicarb, let's just call them Toro Rosso, right? As far as them, as long as they don't come out looking exactly like a Red Bull, then I think they'll be all right. I would kind of like them to go back to the white and navy blue design from a couple years ago. I think that would be great. Again, it's just something different. But I feel like it might be carbon fiber with some navy blue on it, which feels like the way they're going to go. Yeah, not particularly bold predictions, but pretty much what I'm hoping for.
Well, we'll surely see you in the next couple of days. So thank you everybody for joining us once again, guys, for these car launches and news on F1 throughout the day. Make sure you keep it locked and loaded here on On Track GP for the next couple of weeks. We'll be covering each and every one of the remaining car launches as they happen, and make sure to keep an eye out for all the other good stuff that you get in the channel, podcasts, other stuff. I can't think now off the top of my head. It's late and I'm tired. I apologize. But make sure you keep an eye on the channel and keep it locked and loaded here on Track GP. See you later, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.